In this episode of The Full Nerd, we talk to NVIDIA and Remedy about Alan Wake 2 and RTX features. Welcome everybody to this special edition of The Full Nerd. I am your fill-in host, Adam Patrick Murray. I also have Brad Charkis on the line. Hello, Brad.
Hello, Internet.
And we are joined by a couple of special guests. First up is NVIDIA's Jacob Freeman. You are the GeForce evangelist. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You're in America, but over in Europe, we have a couple of guys from Remedy. We have Tatu Alto, the lead graphics programmer. Hello, Tatu.
Hey, nice to be here.
And we also have Tomas Puha, the communications director, also at Remedy.
Hello.
Good to have you guys. Thanks for joining me on this discussion. We're going to talk about Alan Wake 2, obviously, which has just come out, but also the features in it and kind of the technology surrounding it, because it's not just about the game. It's also about you folks at Remedy kind of pushing graphics technology forward. So I think the first question I have, which I got a lot of questions from our community, the first one that I have is, you guys at Remedy, how has development changed from the original Alan Wake to Quantum Break to Control and now to Alan Wake 2? Like, what has changed over this long time period?
It's a bit bigger this time. Yeah, the game is bigger, more people, bigger office. I think the attitude is pretty much the same. People do with passion. That's about it, probably.
Yeah, I mean, in the background, like we're used to, shipping. We used to just have like everybody doing one game, tech team, dev team. But pretty much since like 2016, 2017, Remedy's worked on multiple games, and we're working on like 5 different things right now, so that's definitely a big difference in terms of how do we resource manage everything when the Northlight team and the tools team have to service like multiple games and not just Alan Wake 2, which of course has been the focus the past couple of years, but can't really come at the cost of the other games. So that's definitely quite different than what it was, especially on the first Wake and on Quantum Break as well.
Well, and obviously since then, I mean, ray tracing has been kind of a big thing that has changed development, but that it only kind of got introduced with Control from you guys. Were you already kind of playing around with it early on, maybe in the Quantum Break time period, but it wasn't really until Control hit that you were able to implement it?
No, not really in this sense. Actually, ray tracing came relatively hot in Control also. We did started before the RTX series came out with NVIDIA prototyping with stuff. NVIDIA obviously had done some research way back already, and we knew some folks who have been involved in that stuff. So we were kind of keeping connection and providing some data for them from the Quantum Break era, and then when the control hit and NVIDIA was ready, we kind of like partnered again to make demo first. I mean, it started definitely with just kind of like us being interested, like, okay, show us what you have. I mean, nobody had really done that kind of stuff real time in this kind of context, in a real-time game context. So, I mean, nobody really knew how it will actually end up being. But yeah, it turned out fine.
Yeah, I think the results turned out great, and Control was like one of the earliest implementations of ray tracing in real time. And today with Alan Wake 2, it kind of takes it to the next level with path tracing. It's on a whole, it looks even better than Control did. It's really an awesome, beautiful looking game.
Yeah, back when Control came out, we were definitely talking that this is just kind of like a touching the surface, and yeah, with the Alan Wake, we've gone definitely further. But this is still just the beginnings. I mean, we have been doing this stuff only for a couple of years now, and other graphics we've been doing tens of years. So, yeah.
Okay,
Well,
let me.
It's in super nice position, of course.
So before we get along too far, I just want to say the reviews lifted this morning. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but the reviews I'm reading are calling this, a modern survival horror masterpiece, bonkers and bloody brilliant, a miracle illuminated. So congratulations, guys. It seems like it's a triumph both in gameplay and graphics, and I can't wait to play it tomorrow when my pre-order launches. But along those notes, ray tracing seems like such a perfect fit for this game. Path tracing seems like such a perfect fit for this game. Was Alan Wake 2 already in development before those kinds of technologies came to the forefront, or was the arrival of those kinds of technologies part of the impetus to create this game, 13 years after the original?
Yeah, well, the Alan Wake has of course been in thoughts, and there has been all kind of activity with it way before any ray tracing stuff has happened here. But the production of the Alan Wake 2 started at a point where Control already obviously had something in, so we have known for the whole production time that ray tracing is a thing, and we actually have had support for ray tracing in engine since basically from the beginning of the Alan Wake.
And just to kind of give people maybe a high level overview, any of you guys, what's the relationship like between NVIDIA and Remedy? How is this? Is this? Are you guys at Remedy being like, hey, we really want to push graphics technology forward, so let's implement ray tracing features and upscaling features like DLSS, or NVIDIA, Jacob, is it your end kind of coming to Remedy and being like, hey, let's work on this together to push forward?
Well, I think Remedy has had a pretty long history of pretty stellar PC game titles all the way back to Max Payne, and NVIDIA has had a pretty long relationship with Remedy across multiple titles. We talked about Control earlier, how Control was one of the first implementations of ray tracing. So with Alan Wake 2, we continue to work closely with Remedy to implement even more tech. So we have path tracing, has Reflex, obviously has ray tracing as well, has DLSS, for better performance, better visuals. So I think that you're going to continue to see us work pretty closely with Remedy and other developers, and try to implement technology where it sees fit and brings benefit to GeForce gamers.
I mean, the ties run really deep here in Finland. Like, there's always been like a pretty strong community pushing 3D graphics. What's the say? Like, the circles are pretty small. Like, everybody kind of knows everybody. There's a lot of Remedy alumni and NVIDIA as well. So it's like there's just a lot of always been like a lot of collaboration and a lot of friendship. So I would say it's almost like almost organic in many ways. Yeah,
Definitely. We know a lot of people from the NVIDIA's Helsinki office, and see people outside of the office hours also.
And what are some of the benefits or challenges of implementing ray tracing in your own engine that you guys have with it, which is the Northlight engine? Like, how is that different from working in other engines? I guess first to Jacob.
So the question was about the
like implementing ray tracing features in a custom engine as Northlight, as opposed to something a little bit more ubiquitous like Unreal.
Well, Remedy definitely would be best to answer when it comes to in-engine, but I can talk to maybe some of the challenges with just implementing ray tracing in general. It started like 10 years ago, really. Between all of NVIDIA, that includes like the hardware design, software design, research engineers to make ray tracing a playable experience. I mean, ray tracing is nothing new, but to play ray tracing at 60 frames per second is something entirely different, right? The earliest implementations like Control and some of the other titles, they had maybe one or two ray trace effects, and we've continued to expand that. And one of the biggest breakthroughs was with the RTX 20 series, which added RT cores, as you guys are probably pretty familiar with. And that card in particular was, in ray tracing scenarios, was 10 times faster than the previous gen when in ray tracing. So that was a big development, which kind of started the whole playable ray tracing. And now we're at the point where we can do path tracing with things like DLSS. DLSS frame generation was a huge breakthrough that allowed us to do path tracing at a playable frame rate, which like 3 years ago was pretty much unfathomable to even be possible. So there's a combination of hardware, software, that basically made this all possible.
Well, maybe I'll rephrase it for the Remedy guys then. So I've heard from a lot of developers before that, if you can get real-time ray tracing in an engine and a pipeline, that it makes it much easier to develop for, rather than having to place lights individually and all that kind of stuff. Like, is that also true for Northlight, or was the engine kind of built with this in mind, forward thinking?
So we don't actually customize anything for the ray tracing. So because we are of course targeting also non-ray tracing hardware, but for your original question, I've been only implementing ray tracing for the Northlight, so I don't really know how it goes with others. Our kind of like side of the story is that we are a relatively small team, and we have quite minimalistic approach to designing everything. So we don't have a huge amount of clutter around in all the places, and we tend to be relatively consistent in doing lighting and doing materials and that kind of stuff. So in that sense, it's kind of natural for us, because we have been doing similar kind of stuff with other things and other effects before. It wasn't a huge jump. Then again, it's a pretty huge jump in terms of image quality and stability, of course. So it definitely makes sense. But it hasn't actually changed kind of like game authoring that much for us. The art is art, definitely. The strongest point in Alan Wake is the art design and kind of like the dedication to actually getting the best out of the hardware and stuff that we actually have. So the game looks pretty fucking awesome with low-end PCs and consoles and everything. So that's definitely the most important point. You need to know what you are kind of like doing, and then kind of like graphics techniques can then amplify and make it smooth.
I think that's another good point to talk about is, prior to the game's release, we're recording this on release day, obviously. There was a lot of chatter about like low settings and medium settings and high settings, but Alan Wake 2 looks amazing at even the low settings, and so I think, when you have the higher graphic settings, path tracing, and all that, makes it even better. But I think the key thing is, even on low settings, it looks really, really good. And so I think that's just a testament to the Remedy art developers, and also the engine technology is pretty advanced.
Go ahead, Brad.
Yep. Quick question. So this is one of the first games to support DLSS 3.5 ray reconstruction. Obviously, that sharpens up the visuals and looks good in the final product. I'm looking very much forward to testing it myself when I can play the game after work. But I was just wondering, what sort of benefits, what kind of plus sides did you guys see on the development side from working in DLSS 3.5 ray reconstruction?
It's kind of magic, to be honest. it works so nicely. Definitely during the development there was kind of like a lot of tuning and changing parameters and that kind of stuff. NVIDIA pursued a lot of edge cases, fixing things, flickering here and there, and so on. But the end result looks super nice. I'd say this is again completely new tech stuff, which is beautifully bringing very complex math and lighting stuff together. So it's I would say that it's probably again kind of like touching surface on what's actually possible in the future with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it turns out AI is really good at ray reconstruction. So as opposed to, your standard like hand-tuned denoisers, it does a really good job of especially like cleaning up a lot of the reflections and shadows, things like that. And also, I do want to mention in Alan Wake 2, you can actually use ray reconstruction in both path tracing and in ray tracing modes, and it looks great in both as well.
Well, we got a good question from the community. This one was pointed to the developers. So for the user, ray tracing and path tracing can make you stop and admire what you get to see in a new way. Just kind of sit there and be like, oh wow, this is beautiful. What about ray tracing and path tracing has made you guys stop and take a moment to admire the way you get to do your job in a new way?
That's a tough one.
I mean, you said it was kind of like magical. Like, I mean, do you sit back and you're like, oh wow, okay, well it's crazy that we're even able to do this in our games.
Yeah, to be honest, I mean, there's a lot of art in this game which stops me looking at the game and just thinking that, God damn, we actually did this. This is a pretty crazy setup. Definitely, ray tracing also in many places. It's super nice to see. I mean, we have some of these locations where you have a glass windows and then you have complex shadows coming out from the characters and foliage moving around. It's just a mix of complex graphics techniques which we've been kind of like trying to patch with screen space information and with lacking techniques. It is definitely, I mean, I don't know from the user's perspective how much actually gamers actually see that stuff, but as a person who's been doing this graphic stuff for 20 years now for the games, it's kind of like a lot of pieces are coming together in a way that kind of like seamlessly fits together. And that's of course art-wise also in Alan Wake and in Control and also before in Quantum Break. That's kind of like the key element that we've been trying to achieve always is to kind of like tie all the pieces together so that the world is actually looking kind of like connected, and then you kind of get this feeling that okay, this is all kind of like things belong together. It's not real world, but pieces fit together, and definitely this is again big jump on that stuff, especially on detail level.
I actually would like to mention a specific thing that I saw in Alan Wake 2. So obviously, like the lighting looks great, the reflections look great, but there's a lot of little details as well. For example, the asset quality, like the quality of the textures and the little models that are on desk are very high quality in Alan Wake 2. And if you come across any of those that are like reflective or have some sort of reflective properties, you can actually see the entire environment reflected in that small little object. It's like something really small, but those little details was actually really impressive to me when I came across those.
Yeah, I'll tell the people watching and listening that NVIDIA did provide me a code early to test some stuff out, and I put real short time into it, only a couple hours. But yeah, there was one specific time where I was in the dark and turned on the flashlight. Obviously, the flashlight is a key mechanic, but I felt myself just kind of slowly panning around the room, seeing what the flashlight could do with the shadows and how it reflected and things like that. Yeah, I mean, me as a video guy, I think I love to appreciate kind of like the bells and whistles and how things can look in a game. And so far, I've definitely been impressed. Are there any design elements that just weren't possible without ray tracing? Obviously, the original Alan Wake didn't, but coming into the second one, were there anything you're like, oh man, we can finally do this now that the ray tracing is there?
Well, we are actually shipping platforms that don't support ray tracing, basically. So there cannot be. It's not possible quite yet.
Yeah, in the case of Alan Wake 2, it's about enhancing the reflections that are already there. So, for example, with ray tracing, you get much more accurate reflections. The entire room, the entire environment is reflected back in the reflection, and kind of like the detail I mentioned earlier. Even the smallest little details have full reflections on them, which is really impressive.
Nice. Brad, you got another one?
Yeah, I'm just kind of wondering, you said it's not possible to do that yet. Do you think that ray tracing and path tracing is going to be the future? How does that, aid or hinder your development efforts?
I would hope so, yeah. Pretty hard to see it going away, to be honest. I mean, it's going to be here. I don't know how it will actually lead our development efforts exactly, to be honest. Yet it's maybe a bit early to talk about that stuff. And
okay.
We definitely don't have any plans for ditching out the kind of like non-ray traced world yet. It will be interesting question in 5 years.
All right, I'm gonna set a calendar note.
Opinions.
We'll follow up. So yeah, I mean, you mentioned the ray tracing features and stuff is kind of an enhancement to it, and it needs to be able to run on other platforms. But yeah, how do you? What is it like to maintain playable performance on older hardware? Like how do you be like, okay, well where do we have to cut it off somewhere, because you guys are always kind of pushing the bleeding edge, but like what's that conversation like?
Is there a conversation? It's like art goes wild.
Yeah, there's a huge vision, and then that vision starts to materialize, and then at some point you realize that, god damn, we have quite a lot of stuff here happening. You have kilometers of forest which is all skinned and moving and so on. So at some point there's a lot of stuff. Definitely, I mean, what is it like? I mean, we concentrate a lot on optimizing stuff. I mean, a lot. We've been rewriting big parts of engine in order to do the Alan Wake. We basically when the first visions were laid out, we were looking at the top view map of the locations that we are actually going to be doing. The guys went to photo shoot to States and came back that, okay, here's the map. It's like 10 kilometers times 10 kilometers, and there's going to be forest. There's going to be a lot of trees. And that was pretty clear at that point that, okay, well, that's going to be quite a lot of stuff to push through the control engine. So we definitely did kind of like already like 3 years back do a decision that we just need to start optimizing and trying to kind of like get rid of the bottlenecks and trying to push as much stuff through as possible in order to actually be capable of doing this kind of world. so it's relatively long road getting it together.
On that note, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had any kind of like exact numbers to aim to. It's kind of like the vision of what kind of game we are doing, and then we just optimize, and then at some point you'll run out of time, and then that's it. Fortunately, it runs pretty nicely.
Yeah,
On that note, oh, sorry, go ahead, Jacob.
I was going to say, and also, we kind of touched on it earlier, but the game scales quite well even on older hardware, and still looks really amazing even on the medium or low settings.
Involving the complexity, there were reports that this game relies heavily on mesh shaders. Is that true?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, excellent. I'm actually excited about a lot of the technology and the game itself in this. This is obviously a ray tracing powerhouse, DLSS, ray reconstruction. But this is the first major game I can think of that leaned heavily on mesh shaders, and I don't know if many people are very familiar with it. Could you just kind of give a high-level overview of why you guys chose to do that and what the benefits of those are?
Well, there was actually basically two reasons. One reason was that it was the easiest kind of like uniform path for us on console and PC land to get everything unified, so that we don't need to do many paths. As I said, we don't have insanely big teams, so that we could kind of like cater exact kind of like do custom solutions, infinite amount of custom solutions for different kind of setups. So that was kind of the common denominator, which seemed to be working very nicely with everything that we have on the table. Then the other piece of the story is that the mesh shaders are basically, it means that you need to divide the world into small chunks. So you kind of like every tree you cut it into very small pieces, and it kind of naturally leans itself to very good culling, so you can basically only draw what you actually see. And we had these huge forest scenes, which are usually very problematic for occlusion, and to make it even worse, we wanted the whole forest to actually be moving all the time, so it's even more complex. So choosing mesh shaders basically meant us that we had a unified path to actually make things in small enough granularity that we can actually hide what is not on view, and kind of like still make it run.
And I think he mentioned the forest scene. That it actually, and Adam, I think you've probably seen it, and Brad, you will too. But it really does feel like you're in a forest. It's extremely dense.
Oh, it's thick. Yeah.
Yeah.
like oppressive thick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely ominous. Yeah. Well, so it feels like you guys seem to always want to strive for pushing the boundaries and pushing the limits. Do you feel like native rendering resolution is a thing of the past, unless you have like a Halo tier kind of hardware? Like, do you see things like upscaling technologies like DLSS now, like it needs to be kind of in place there in the future?
Well, we are mostly interested on kind of like the picture quality and how the game looks. Resolutions come as a second thing. We have a lot of different techniques in engine, and we do draw in many resolutions. Nonetheless, kind of like what you are actually doing. For instance, all the transparency stuff, we always draw in 3 resolutions. This has been the case since Quantum Break. I think we actually made that kind of stuff in first Alan Wake already. Some of the stuff has always been drawn in smaller resolution if it doesn't matter. The important thing is that it looks good. Makes sense. I mean, yeah, if you think of like smoke, you don't need a lot of pixels to make a smoke, but then if you have a crisp particle, then you probably want to make it as small as possible. So it's kind of like picking your battles, trying to aim for as much quality as possible with as little resources as possible, so that everything looks good. I think it's a kind of sensible choice using the amount of power that you need.
Yeah, I mean, and it, like he said, it's all about making it look better, right? And without like frame generation or DLSS, you wouldn't be able to achieve path tracing or some of the advanced rendering features at a playable frame rate. So you could say that it actually looks better because of it. And the same with ray reconstruction, DLSS 3.5. It looks better, and it is technically not native rendering. It is using AI to do the ray reconstruction, so it's all about making the game look even better. And, we try to utilize the technology in the best way to do that. And DLSS and frame generation and ray reconstructions are tools that allow developers to make even more beautiful games.
I have a couple just we have developers in our Discord community, so there's a couple just developer kind of questions. How has ray tracing changed your asset creation pipeline?
I don't think it has actually changed our asset creation pipeline, to be honest. No, I don't think so. Video renderings, we do some amount of video renderings, kind of like offline videos. Not a lot, but there is some in Alan Wake also. With steady quality and kind of like stable image quality. Ray tracing, we usually use ray tracing for those because it's a bit easier. You don't need to tune everything so accurately for the shadow maps and that kind of stuff. But for the basic asset creation pipeline, it doesn't change that much.
Here's another one. Is Remedy using locally trained Stable Diffusion instances for anything in Alan Wake 2?
I don't think so.
They got artists.
Yeah.
Is it even legal?
I have a question, not directly related to graphics, but to your technology. Again, I'm really excited about all the technology in this game. You guys are at the forefront of ray reconstruction. You have frame generation. You have path tracing. You have mesh shaders. You guys are also one of the first games after a couple Microsoft releases to require an SSD and not a hard drive. And I was just wondering if you could speak a little bit as to why hard drives are falling by the wayside.
Speed, lack thereof. Speed.
Perfect answer.
Yeah. To be honest, I am not full up to speed on this game, actually, to be honest.
Okay.
I don't know much about our hard disk requirements. It would be lovely to talk about it, but I honestly don't know.
It's impressive how much you guys are pushing the envelope.
Yeah, I'm when you play it, Brad, you'll see, and I'm not sure how much this speaks to the storage requirement or speed, but there is a lot of seamless switching between different scenes. You go from one scene to another scene without any loading in between, and I'm sure that it is related definitely to storage speed as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, even in the little time that I've played, I've noticed such quick transitions and oh wow, okay. But we're not using direct storage in Alan Wake, correct? This isn't a direct storage game. No.
I think we are not. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
But
I think.
I mean, because it feels fast.
Sure, but like
Yeah.
ultimately no SSD is as fast as memory anyway.
No, well, not quite.
So
Yeah, but I mean, the faster disk you have, the faster the loading is. I mean, we do have different tiers of SSDs at the office, and I mean, we have a lot of texture data, for instance. It is fact that the speedier your SSD is, the speedier your texture streaming is going to be. So that is a factor, definitely. And if you do have really old hard disk, it's going to be slower because there's not as much data coming through.
Go ahead, Brad.
Oh, I didn't have a follow-up to that.
Okay. So here's one that is a little tougher. You know, obviously the internet has opinions about things. You know, and when you guys at Remedy like to push the bleeding edge, and even at NVIDIA, like how do you feel when players or even journalists call your game poorly optimized just because it requires a little bit more horsepower?
well,
At least we've been trying a lot.
I think the whole word optimize is just somehow completely like misused, and there's maybe an illusion that there's infinite time and infinite money. There isn't. So you can't like optimize or maximize every platform out there, like especially on PC. You gotta choose your battles for sure, but of course we want to ensure that like people get good performance, but ultimately, you know, like especially on PC, people have such differing hardware setups, and it's kind of hard to win the argument if somebody's like, well, I got my 6-7 year old hardware and I don't think you've optimized well enough, then what are we going to say? Like, we're going to always like kind of try to push the envelope and probably optimize to the other direction. But like Tato said, I mean, we spent so much time on trying to make sure that people have like a good game experience. Huge amount of effort is spent doing that, but can't please everybody.
Yeah, would be lovely to make it run on all the possible hardware. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, of course. But with the content that you have, it's not very much possible always. There's a limit.
Yeah, and like we said, even at the low settings, I mean, it's still a visually impressive game, you know. But I will mention that from NVIDIA's side, you know, we have pretty close collaboration with a lot of developers, including Remedy, on optimization. We have tools that are available to help optimize the game to get the most performance out of it. And obviously the driver plays a big role in that as well, with the game-ready drivers trying to just get as much performance as possible out of the hardware. You know, obviously we want the games to run on a wide variety of hardware, and like they said, you know, from developers' perspective, I mean, it makes most sense to also have your game run on as many hardware as possible. So it's a goal for all of us.
Yeah, we definitely have very good collaboration with NVIDIA on optimizing, and also AMD and Sony and Microsoft also. They have really good connections to everybody. So it's been very helpful to get insights from the partners also.
I have a non-graphics related question. So Alan Wake was originally released 13 years ago. You guys have released a bunch of popular games since then. Do you have to be familiar with Remedy's existing work to dive deeply into Alan Wake 2? Or is some level of familiarity better? Or do you guys have little extras in there for fans of the series?
I actually asked myself that earlier before I started as well. I was like, oh man, I don't think I completed American Nightmare. I was like, crap, should I go back and play that?
Yeah, I mean, we took great care. Obviously, there's number 2 in the title, but we took great care that the barrier of entry is low. We want as many people to play Alan Wake as possible. So it's a fine line of like making sure that fans of not just who played Alan Wake religiously and played Control, there's a lot of stuff and lore for all of those folks who really kind of want to do that deep dive. But then on the other side, we really made sure by having the other playable character in Saga, that's kind of the point of view character for like new players, because Saga's experiencing everything in the world of Alan Wake, Bright Falls for the first time. So that was really, really important that we don't alienate people. But rest assured, especially if you've played Control and its 2 expansions, oh my God, there's some great payoff that works if you know, but we made sure that like if you know none of that stuff, you're still gonna have like a great experience. Like, I mean, you can go watch a Marvel movie and not get every reference. Like this costume was in some comic in '86 or something. I didn't know, but I still love the movie. So it's I don't think that's actually like, I think our creatives like were very good about making sure we kind of hit the right balance. I hope we did.
Okay.
I agree.
Thanks. Teamwork.
There you go. Nice. So even just moving around the options menus, like from the outside as just a player, and not knowing anything about it, options menus can change wildly from game to game. But in Alan Wake 2, I feel like there's a lot of good options, not just in graphical settings, but also in just like usability settings, accessibility, things like that. Like how much thought is put into, we want to surface, so many different options for the player, but also there's probably things that you're like, we don't really need to give access to the player. Like what's that conversation like?
It's well, if we put like the graphic settings to one side, I mean that's a Tatu and a couple of other guys on the team, but like we don't actually have that many accessibility options in the game compared to something like Control, but we actually ship most of that stuff a year after in the Ultimate Edition. And a lot of the considerations might even sound stupid. It's like how much UI resource we have. I think most game developers you would talk to, like UI is always a constant constraint, just in terms of like how much UI bandwidth there is to design things. Like whenever we add new settings, you got to make sure that we're going to be localizing all of these settings, and all these sorts of considerations come into play. So it's actually not very easy at all. And then, games come together very, very late, and that's a kind of another consideration there as well. Like the later you put stuff in, the more there's less time there is to, of course, test all of those things as well. So some of this stuff is more like, okay, like let's get the game out there and see what people kind of react to and might need. And of course, there are certain standards we most definitely want to be hitting, but like it's just again like question of resource above all.
I will at least point out real quickly that the tooltips, or however you would describe, like when you go over a setting and there's like a description of what it is, especially in the graphic settings, it's like very descriptive, at least, because sometimes I'm like, I don't know what this does or how it's going to impact anything. So
yeah, that's
I
good.
appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I think Katrina,
Nice to hear.
Yeah, I think Katrina did a lot of that with the team. Like we have a great technical writer who was very good about. Because yes, we've actually not been very good about that.
Yes,
like,
it's very good.
And in Alan Wake 2, in the graphic settings specifically, there's a lot of settings for the ray tracing. For the ray tracing section, there's quite a lot of settings. So it's good to have a description on each one of those, on what each one of those do. But it has presets as well. You have like low, medium, and high. But I do want to mention one thing that I think a lot of people didn't realize is that in Alan Wake 2, the medium setting of ray tracing actually uses path tracing as well. The medium and high use path tracing. and the low just uses ray tracing. So on the high setting in Alan Wake 2, it does 3 bounces for path tracing, which is pretty impressive, and it looks amazing. So you'll see soon, Brad.
I cannot wait.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, it's always, I mean, the settings in UI, they are always balance of kind of like providing options for people to actually kind of like meaningful options to tune, and then trying to balance on not kind of like just throwing everything there and making a mess out of it, so that people can't actually anymore navigate there and understand what's actually happening when I press this one. So it is always discussion about kind of like balancing. Okay, we do have quite a lot of chat on these things that, okay, should we put this here? Do people actually understand what it does? Does it do something kind of like visual enough? I'm talking mostly about graphic settings. Kind of like if we put something there into the menu, people should understand that, okay, this does something actually, and kind of like trying to make a meaningful choices in terms of performance and visuals, so that the options that you have there still the low ones also look good.
And that kind of goes back to the. Oh, go ahead.
Reasonable performance benefit also.
I was going to say that kind of goes back to the optimization discussion we had earlier. Is that there's a lot of settings in there that you can tweak and tune to find the best performance that matches your system, and it still looks great on all the settings. But if you have a little bit more horsepower, it can look even better.
One of the things that isn't present, and I'm sure there's maybe discussions around this, is any sort of benchmarking mode. Obviously, for reviewers like us, benchmarking modes are can be beneficial, but I think for standard users, it helps at least kind of understand. Okay, if I change a setting, I can immediately run through and kind of see how it's affecting it. What was the discussion? I actually has Remedy ever included a benchmarking mode in any of their titles?
I don't think so.
And that I know of.
Something?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Has it ever been part of the discussion?
I mean, like Tato said, like it's the team is small, right? So it's like, do we focus on making the game, or do we focus on things that are not necessarily important for a great game experience? Like ultimately, like everything's a compromise, right? So it's
Remedy has spinned off one benchmarking company,
Future
which is just making benchmarks. I do have some experience from that stuff.
Yeah.
But in this company we try to do games.
Yeah.
At the Future Mark we did benchmarks.
Yeah.
We have a couple folks from that company here.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. Well, I mean, I do like one of the things is that if you're in game already loaded into the game and you make a change, it happens in real time. So you just pop out of the menu and kind of if you have some sort of frame counter on, you can see how it's affecting it. So that's nice.
Yeah. All the settings that we have in menus are live, so you can toggle them on and off and go back to game. So none of the stuff in the menus does require you rebooting the game or anything like that. Yeah.
Is that hard to implement it that way? Because I feel like in the past, in other games, it was always like, okay, well, if you turn on this feature, you got to reboot. Is it hard to be like, oh no, actually everything affects it in real time? Well,
to be honest, I mean, we toggle these settings a lot during the development just to make sure that everything works. And for us, it's actually a lot easier that you can actually change these settings because it's very problematic if you actually need to start the game all over all the time. So yes,
well,
no.
It helps.
I mean,
it helps developers
does,
and gamers.
It does require a bit of effort to make them seamless, but it definitely pays off because then you can actually iterate on everything without hassle.
Well, I definitely appreciate it.
So you guys keep talking about the gameplay and the experience, and I'm actually, I'm supposed to be an impartial journalist, but I'm a big Remedy fanboy. You guys just have consistently churned out games that look awesome and are haunting and play just as well. And I'm wondering if that's something you don't see very often, and you guys have done it consistently. And I'm wondering if you guys work in collaboration from the technical side and the gameplay side from the beginning to have that happen. Is just everyone experts and have a shared vision that go for it? Do you actually work towards achieving that combination? How do you guys manage to just keep pulling off hits like this, hits on every level?
Well, as said, I mean, we are relatively small company still for this kind
teams
of,
at least.
relatively small teams. So we do collaborate a lot. Yes, definitely. Unfortunately, nowadays we can't fit everybody into the same room. That was the case still in Quantum Break. It was definitely, we had a lighting guy and graphics programmers and art director and VFX guy sitting next to each other in one room. Would be lovely if it was possible. Team sizes have grown such that we can't all sit just next to each other. 100 people can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely. I mean, the same spirit is. I mean, there's a lot of same people at the company, and we do kind of have close collaboration always. So yes, lot of collaboration. People, I mean, in order to actually make some sort of unified experience, everybody just does need to understand the big picture on what are we actually building. It can't go so that okay, there's one guy who's doing some gameplay stuff, and then some other folks are trying to achieve some art thing which nobody understands and so on. Yeah, it is definitely so that you need to have everybody on the same boat and kind of like go towards the same goal, at least in high level. Even if not everybody can understand exactly what other people are doing, everybody still needs to have a common vision on what actually matters and what we at least need to do.
Yeah, it's just harder and harder to do that. Like as team sizes grow, it's just like much harder to keep everybody kind of heading to the same direction, understanding the creative vision of the game, and communication in general just always takes time. It's an illusion that there weren't issues when we only had like 40 people in the same room you had, but it's just like so much easier to kind of have a grasp of what everybody's doing. But now when you're making games on multiple continents, not just different rooms, it's just like growingly challenging. And I think Remedy's always kind of, like you said, we've been small, so we're still like learning very much like how to manage all that for sure.
Well, it seems to be working.
Well, we're about 10 hours from the game coming out, so let's see.
Well, I know you can't talk about future projects, but I mean, obviously, I get the sense that Remedy is all about pushing technology forward. When you're thinking about future projects, is it usually from, hey, wouldn't it be cool to do this sort of technology thing, and then kind of, okay, well, what project can we link that to, or does the idea of the project come first, and then you start talking about the technology implementation?
I mean, the game comes first always.
Yeah. It is, yeah. I mean, we definitely do think what kind of like what is the end result, but what we want to do. It's in some really rare occasions, I mean, some specific tech innovation can actually lead to some gameplay innovation or something like that. Using light, being capable of doing something opens new doors, but relatively rarely that's the case. But we are fortunate to be in a situation that we do all the tech that we use, and we have a lot of different kind of crafts in house. So So it's not only kind of like runtime tech. It's also animation, mocap. We have own studios. We have own audio studios. We kind of like have so many different fields present in the house that it's often possible to find solution for if you just have a vision on okay, now we want to do this. I rarely remember to bump into situation where it was just absolutely kind of like it's not possible.
That's the best challenge.
That usually doesn't happen if you have enough kind of like dedicated people.
So you said maybe 5 years from now we could talk about path tracing and ray tracing becoming the norm. If I come back to you in those 5 years and path tracing is the norm, do you think you could use that technology to inspire new things in Alan Wake 3?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the path tracing, ray tracing. I mean it's definitely becoming a norm. I mean having hybrid solutions so that you actually support rasterization and then kind of like amplify the experience and make the image more stable with ray tracing, because it just fits so well for this kind of like tying things together, that because it's kind of like it makes it so easy to implement effects that actually tie together, because it's global thing. But anyway, in 5 years' time, yeah, I mean, there's going to be more and more ray tracing and path tracing coming in. I believe at that point we are probably in hardware that you can maybe start thinking about only shooting rays. Oh no, what did I say? That was definitely not a promise.
It was not a promise.
Yeah.
We'll check in 5 years.
Yeah, we do need to wrap this up. We still need to ship this game. Sorry, so we do need to wrap this up.
No,
Okay.
no, for sure. Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys taking the time to chat with us. You know, and good luck with the launch and whatever comes in the future. Hopefully you get some rest sometime soon. Yeah.
There's a lot of
so-
games.
Yeah, right. Well, I'm looking forward to, you know, kind of what continues with Alan Wake and what other games you have in the future. So Tatu and Thomas, thank you so much for chatting with me, and Jacob, thank you for hanging out as well and
Thank you.
talking about
Yeah, it was great.
the NVIDIA side. Yeah, and then Brad, thank you for your good questions. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate all you guys.
yeah, thanks everybody
you.
Thanks
for
for
watching. Yeah, we'll have a normal edition of the Full Nerd coming up next week, so tune into that. Until then, thanks everybody. See you later.